All right, let's get right into it. We're about to explore this really fascinating, kind of backwards idea about how we measure skills and how some of our most basic assumptions are probably just wrong. You know how it is. From school all the way up to those corporate surveys, we're all taught that checking strongly agree is the goal. It's the gold standard, right? It signals total confidence, total mastery. It's clean, decisive, and it just feels right. But here's the twist. What if that little bit of hesitation, that feeling of, well, it depends, is actually a sign of a much more sophisticated, a much more capable mind? That's the puzzle we're going to piece together today. Okay, so let's jump straight to the piece of data that kicked this whole thing off. It all starts with one very specific number that really messes with everything we thought we knew about validating a skill. There it is, plus 0.1321. Now, by itself, that's just a number on a screen. But trust me, in context, this thing is a bombshell. So here's what it means. We've got a statistically reliable positive correlation between a highly advanced psychological worldview, it's called the yellow vMEME in spiral dynamics, and people who only slightly agree that the ability to walk away is a critical skill. And this isn't just some small local poll. We're talking data from 64 countries. This is a real global pattern. All right, so why? Why on earth would a more advanced mindset correlate with less certainty? This is where we get into the huge difference between just having a skill and knowing exactly when and when not to use it. So on the one hand, you've got this traditional view. Absolute agreement. A skill is a hammer and every problem looks like a nail. Strongly agree just means you've got the best hammer. But on the other hand, there's contextual calibration. This way of thinking sees skills as a whole toolkit. Sure, the ability to walk away is a powerful tool, but is it always the right one? The advanced mindset says absolutely not. The context is everything. That's why they only slightly agree. And this chart just lays it out perfectly. Look at this pattern. The yellow mindset actually has a negative correlation with strongly agreeing about public speaking being a universal skill. It even pushes back against absolute statements about fact-based decisions. It actively rejects these rigid, one-size-fits-all positions. But where does it pop up with a positive correlation? With that nuanced, calibrated, slightly agree on walking away. The pattern is crystal clear. It's all about what works, not about making big, absolute claims. And just so we're on the same page, the yellow vMEME isn't about being wishy-washy. It's a way of thinking that sees the world as these interconnected, dynamic systems. It's all about seeing the bigger picture and being flexible enough to adapt to it, which is exactly why it runs away from simple, absolute answers. So what happens when our organizations, our leaders, our HR departments get this all wrong? What's the actual, real-world cost of rewarding that blind conviction over real contextual wisdom? Well, the whole system starts to short-circuit. People learn the game real quick. They just start saying strongly agree to everything because that's how you get ahead. But the really crucial skill, knowing when to do something, that actually gets weaker. And we end up promoting people based on how loud they can shout their convictions, not on how wisely they can apply their skills. And it creates this just awful domino effect. It starts with rewarding absolutism. That leads to becoming blind to context. Then, because you can't see the context, you start putting the wrong people in the wrong roles. The system breaks into pieces that don't work together, and pretty soon, your metrics for what a good skill even is, they become totally useless. They can't predict success at all. Okay, so we've seen how the old way of measuring things fails, how it triggers this cascade of bad decisions. If the old tools are broken, how do we build better ones? How can we even begin to measure, let alone navigate, this kind of human complexity? Well, the answer isn't a better survey. It's a totally new kind of model. I love this quote because it perfectly captures just how ambitious this is. It's about getting beyond just gut feelings and office politics and actually trying to mathematically model the human side of an organization, including its ethics, its psychology, the whole shebang. And this is what that kind of model looks like. It's called the SD Navigator. Now, yeah, it looks pretty complex, but the core idea is actually pretty simple. It takes in all that squishy psychological data, worldviews, fear, trust, and lets managers play out what-if scenarios. You can test out different decisions and see the predicted ripple effects across the entire human system. It's a tool for navigating the kind of nuance we've been talking about. So let's break it down. First up is the state vector.
Just think of this as the soul of the company, but written down as an equation. It takes a snapshot of your team's dominant mindsets, and it measures these crucial sensors like how much fear or trust or well-being is in the air at any given moment. Next, you've got the controls. These are basically the levers a manager can pull, the actual decisions they can make, like pushing for innovation or even reducing staff. And the magic of the model is that it predicts how each of these actions will land with this specific team, knowing that the same action could have totally different results somewhere else.
And this is the most mind-bending part, the objective score. This is the model's conscience, literally. It assigns a mathematical weight to different outcomes. And look at this. Fear and well-being are weighted almost as heavily as direct action, which you can think of as money. The model literally penalizes you, mathematically, for making your team fearful and miserable. It forces a balance between profit and people. Now, a model this complicated sounds like you'd need a team of data scientists just to turn it on, right? But the future of this tech isn't about making everyone a coder. It's about changing how we talk to our tools in a really fundamental way. And that big change is something called AI vibe coding. Basically, it's the idea that pretty soon you won't need to be a programmer to build or use complex apps like this one. You'll just ask for what you want in plain conversational language. So instead of writing a single line of code, you could just type the exact question that we started this whole journey with. The AI would get the vibe of what you're asking, go find the data, run the analysis, and pop up the visualization you need, all in seconds. Which really brings it all home. This whole journey, from that one weird data point all the way to this futuristic AI model, it shows us we've been asking the wrong questions all along. The goal was never to find people who strongly agree. The real goal is to build systems that can finally understand nuance and context. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. If we actually make this shift, if we stop rewarding strongly agree and start valuing slightly agree, what old systems of how we evaluate people, how we promote them, and how we lead them, what completely breaks? And what new, smarter systems could finally rise up and take their place?